The Curse of Sheri and Wilbert, a fatal end to a witch's spell. Wilbert and Sheri had been married for 5 years and were starting to settle into their lives together. They had a cozy home in the suburbs, with plenty of room for their 2 cats and 2 dogs. Life was good. It was fall and the days were getting shorter as the dark nights grew longer. One night, Wilbert suggested that they take a drive out to the countryside and explore. Sheri thought it sounded like fun, so they loaded up the car and headed out. As they drove, Wilbert noticed a small sign pointing down a narrow dirt road. Curious, he decided to take the detour and drove down the winding road for about a mile. All around them, the trees seemed to almost whisper in the breeze. When they finally arrived at the end of the road, Wilbert and Sheri were met with an eerie sight. In the middle of the clearing was a tall, dilapidated cabin. Its windows were boarded up, but the door swung open slightly, revealing a dimly lit room inside. Despite the strange sensation that seemed to radiate from the cabin, Wilbert and Sheri were too curious to turn back. They cautiously stepped inside and found that the interior was sparsely furnished. There was a small table with a burning candle and 4 chairs, a wooden chest in the corner, and a worn rug in the center of the room. On the wall opposite the door, they noticed something even more peculiar. Etched in the wood were strange symbols and a huge pentagram. Wilbert and Sheri both felt a chill run up their spines, but they were unable to tear their gaze away from the strange symbols. Before either of them could make sense of what they were seeing, the door slammed shut. Wilbert jumped to his feet and tried to open it, but it seemed to be stuck fast. He and Sheri looked around for another way out, but there was none. Suddenly, a loud cackling filled the air. Wilbert and Sheri spun around to see a tall woman standing in the center of the rug. She was dressed in a long, dark robe and her hair was streaked with white. Her eyes were a piercing icy blue. The woman curled her lips into a wicked smile and spoke in a rasping voice. "Welcome to my home, Wilbert and Sheri. I am Madame Volova, a powerful witch. I have been expecting you." Wilbert and Sheri knew that they were in big trouble. Before either of them could respond, Madame Volova waved her hand and a black mist engulfed the room. Wilbert and Sheri felt a strange tingling sensation and realized that the witch had put them under a spell. Madame Volova began to chant an incantation and soon enough, Wilbert and Sheri were completely immobilized. The witch laughed and cackled as she waved her hands and a horrible transformation began. Wilbert's and Sheri's bodies began to twist and distort, their skin turning green and scaly. The transformation continued until Wilbert and Sheri had completely turned into hideous creatures. Madame Volova cackled with delight at her handiwork. She had turned Wilbert and Sheri into frogs, to be her slaves for eternity. The witch clapped her hands and the black mist that had filled the room disappeared. Wilbert and Sheri blinked as they saw the cabin through their frog eyes. It was even more dilapidated and decrepit than before. Wilbert and Sheri were horrified, but there was nothing they could do. They were now cursed forever, cursed to live as frogs in Madame Volova's cabin. The two of them were doomed to suffer the witch's cruel and heartless punishments, until their days were finally over. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like and tell us what you think in the comments. And of course, don't forget to subscribe.